My name is Craig DiCarlo. I'm with Left Field. I'm joined with Tim Baker, also from Left Field. And on behalf of the project team, Freeman Design Associates, BSC Group, and Left Field, we thank you for coming tonight and for tuning in on Zoom, folks at home. Without further ado, I will turn things over to Adrian Lennon for tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you everyone for being here. I will move as quickly as I can through about 25 slides to talk about this project and give some updates on the community engagement outreach program that we have been undertaking in the months of August and September, and remind you of some of the features of the school project pursuant to our Mass Environmental Protection Act filing that bring us here tonight. So, beginning with the team. We are, of course, hosted by the City of Lynn, Jim LaMotta, Danielle Smith, Michael Donovan, Lauren Drago, Laura Stockfish, and the City of Lynn School Building Committee are representing the City of Lynn for this project, and Tim Baker, Lynn Stapleton, and Craig, of course, with Left Field, Gene Raymond, and Steve Watchhorn with Raymond Design, and then myself and my colleague Diana Walden coming from BSC Group to support the environmental permitting for the project. The objective of this presentation tonight is to update, of course, the public involvement strategy and the MEPA permitting approach and review thresholds, and discuss a little bit more about the MEPA Article 97 disposition that we need to undertake to have a site onto which we can build a school. One of the primary points of feedback that we have received as part of the community engagement exercise has to do with understanding the project timeline and schedule. So I wanted to lead with that a little bit. It's a lot to look at on a very small slide. I can appreciate probably at home on Zoom. So I just want to walk through it a little and communicate that the entire primary schedule runs from 2022 to 2026. And currently, we are in feasibility and schematic design, and we will be moving, hopefully, to advance the design into construction documents beginning of 2024. This coincides with the disposition and transfer of property for the Article 97 execution and the creation of a site onto which we can build a school, and also with the MEPA permitting process, which really needs to happen very early in the program for the school design. The environmental outreach process began in July with the orientation of the project webpage towards the priority populations that we know we are serving here as part of the school building project, and with the goal to try to access and communicate the school building project early and often in this process through the website and also through multiple different methods of exposure. So what the Executive Office of the Environment and Energy Affairs, EEOA, really prefers to see are 3 different mechanisms of contact in the community by 3 different methods on 3 different occasions. And so what a mechanism is either print, digital, or in-person exposure to the project. And a method would be reflecting that on 3 different occasions. So here, our print mechanism is that we produce posters with a QR code that points to the website and also encourages members of the community to attend these forums tonight. We sent home a backpack mailer to the same effect. And we posted legal notice in the newspaper about these forums to try and bring people in who are more paper-based in terms of their access to information. The digital mechanism is, of course, the project website, which is hosted and is coinciding with the MSBA project website for the exposure of the project. We want to host all the information in one place so people really know where to go. And then we generated a wonderful survey that we have been circulating around the community after the first forum that we hosted here about 3 weeks ago. And I'm excited to share some survey findings tonight, which is a lot of the focus of this forum number 2. We also have social media and other digital outlets through which we have been communicating the project and how to be involved and stay informed. And then the third in-person mechanism includes the public forum that we had a few weeks ago, the tabling event wherein we, Tim and myself and a representative from RDA we're at Linside Out, which is a wonderful community event, and talked to a lot of people right downtown. It's great. And then this third public forum tonight to report back a little bit what we learned and what people's initial reaction to the project is. So here we are at Linside Out, wonderful time. And as you'll see, we generated a couple of flyers, which are for that tabling event, and also in the back of the room tonight, I think actually on the table there, they're still there, and they have, you know, the project description and some highlights about the project. And then you see the QR code links you to the website where you can fill out the survey. All you need is a phone and that piece of paper, and you'll get your thoughts in writing, and it's part of the testimonial feedback that we have to gather for the MEPA filing. In addition, we have a rendering of the siting of the school on the location, and also the interior of the school layout as it is. And if you spend a little bit of time looking at it, you'll see it's a very compact and efficient school. It is over 5 stories, and it's going to be really fantastic for the community. There are some wonderful features that the kids are going to love and the teachers are going to love too. So the community feedback survey is designed to be 5 simple questions. We're using a service that will naturally translate the information or the questions of the survey into the native language of the person who is requesting it. So when you enroll into the survey, it asks you what language you would like the information to be provided to you in, and you can do it on your phone. And those questions are: what are your connections to the Pickering School? What about the new middle school are you most excited? And what concerns do you have? And do you have any questions and anything else you want the project team to know? So very open-ended and very easy to get a whole host of thoughts and feedback from pretty much anybody in the community who has the ability to use a non-web-based phone or you know, Chromebook or any other kind of digital media to access the survey and have it translated. And we've got some great responses. So I just want to share some responses about the excitement in the community. A lot of people have communicated that they are really looking forward to seeing the students in Lynn, and especially in this part of the district, have the opportunity to enjoy high quality learning space and an improved program as part of that learning space, and that it's in the right place and that it's about time, which has been really great feedback. It's been great to see that it's a lot of what we heard at the tabling event as well, personally from people, and what we've gathered generally through the course of this month to 6 weeks of community engagement. With regards to concerns, I think it's important that we talk about this because I want you to see that your concerns are being heard and reflected as part of the discussion. So, there is concerns about the timeline of the project and that it does happen in a timely manner. There are concerns about traffic on the site, and there are concerns about the size of the building, it being very tall as a 5-story building, although on the street side facing, it will only appear to have a 4-story facade. Please do stay connected to the project. The survey is already open. It remains open. We want to continue to provide feedback over the course of the community engagement process. Please feel free to do so. We would love to continue to gather information, and do share it far and wide to everybody that you know, because this is the place where we're early enough in design that we can actually respond to what we hear, and we have this venue open to be able to actually gather it. There does come to be a certain point where we're no longer surveying for feedback and we're advancing the project. So we want to know as early as possible what your thoughts are and what your concerns are, what you're excited about too. The project website is up here, and then also the project has a YouTube channel. So the new Pickering School will serve 1,100 students in grades 6 through 8 in 183,834 gross square feet. The project brings equity to the district, where the recently constructed Thurgood Marshall Middle School has elevated programming and facilities, and the building will be 5 stories high, with play areas and open fields constructed on the existing Magnolia Avenue Park. This is the siting of the school on Magnolia Avenue Park. You can see on the screen on the left-hand side, we are retaining the Wyoming Little League baseball field exactly as it is on site. And then moving across the site, you see there's an elevated play area and open green space, multi-use play area, in addition to parking and the conservation of a pocket park on the frontage of Magnolia Avenue, wherein we will be replacing in kind the existing play structure and courts that are there right now. So those will not be eliminated as part of the school building project. They are intentionally put on Magnolia Ave so that the public has the ability to access it, not during school hours and without crossing school property. And then, of course, the new Pickering Middle School is elevated a little bit on towards the frontage of Canomo Avenue, and we have significant plantings planned for either side of the school building to try to minimize the impact of the structure to the neighboring buildings and community. There are mostly homes on either side of that parcel boundary. So we do have a pretty comprehensive planting plan for that. And in fact, overall, we are improving the tree canopy on the site significantly by way of improving the site as part of this project. We can just look very carefully and quickly here at the building floor plans. Again, I know this is small on the page, but I really encourage you to take a look at it in the back of the room. The school building is open a couple of floors up, where there is a viewing observation deck, and there are some really nice features like I think it's called a movement space that opens out into that observation deck. And then there are a couple of floors of classrooms on either side, and a central corridor also with programming space. So it's very compact, very interesting, and impressive of the design team to be able to get all of this into such a small footprint. Citing the project on Magnolia Ave was a complicated process as part of our initial design discussion, because we were trying to find a way to conserve as much of Magnolia Park as we possibly could as part of the project. There are some challenges to siting on Magnolia Park, mainly that the park itself has less than ideal soils for a structure of this size. And ultimately, it was decided that the best way to try to retain the park with green spaces would be to move the school up the site towards the Sisson School and Pickering School on the same level. And here's a look at some renderings of the school on the site now. As you can see, you have that second story observation space and is overlooking the parking area and some of the recreation space that we have that we're conserving on the Magnolia Park location, and also connecting to both Sisson and the new Pickering school sites. So in the interests of the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act, there are specific thresholds of impact that qualify a project of any type into multi-agency review before the Commonwealth. And there are several different threshold categories, and this project, because of its size and location, crosses over some specific thresholds that call us forward to this multi-agency review. Specifically, under the category of land, we have the disposition or change in use of land, or the interest in land subject to Article 97. And that is that the Magnolia Avenue parcel is protected under Article 97, and therefore needs to be released from that limited conservation protection so that it can be developed into a school site. I'll talk a little bit more about the process and impact of that in a minute. The next category is under wetlands, waterways, and tidelands. and any permit that is required and calls for the alteration of a half acre or more of any other type of wetland does require multi-agency review. In this case, our other type of wetland is the flood zone, which exists on the lower portion of Magnolia Avenue Park. And then the third, of course, is for transportation, and that is the generation of 2,000 or more new average daily trips onto the roadways and providing access to a single site. Because we are combining some student population into this school and expanding the number of people that will be arriving on the site, we definitely expect that there will be an increase in vehicle traffic to the site. And so that is included in our threshold review. So Article 97 transfer involves first identifying the parcel boundaries and the size of the parcels that we actually have on the site, which was in itself something of an exercise, also brought before the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Conservation Commission, the Cemetery Commission, and the City Council, so that we were able to really clearly identify the metes and bounds of the site and its size, so that we can actually put it up for the Article 97 transfer. This pair of parcels are a total of 5.8 acres at Magnolia Park, and they are to be released. We have already arrived at all of our local approvals for that release. That was completed on August 8th and during the summer forwarded to our legislative delegates representing the City of Lynn to take it forward to the state, wherein they will also need to find a 2/3 majority vote in both the House and Senate and approval of the governor to be able to release the land from this limited protection. So Article 97 is not exactly as powerful as a conservation restriction on the site, but it does make it very complicated and difficult with many steps to release that protection. A new introduction into the Article 97 parcel transfer process as of this year is the passage and promulgation of the Public Lands Preservation Act. And the Public Lands Preservation Act requires a replacement parcel be transferred into Article 97 protection so that there is no net loss of open space and protected land as part of an Article 97 disposition. So we were able to very easily identify an appropriate replacement parcel for the one we are removing here on Magnolia Ave, and that parcel is at the Parkland Avenue site, which was previously considered as the site of this school. And we endeavored to identify a site of the appropriate size that we could subdivide from the larger 40-acre parcel that is associated with the reservoir and to use that for the transfer parcel. This is all, as I said, moved through our local approvals. It is part of the legislative package to the delegation. It's a really nice trade. It's very close to the existing site, which is one of the things that the Commonwealth is always looking for, is that the transfer of land take place not only in the same community, but also as close as possible to the existing protected land. So we got kind of lucky on this one, in that there was something already up the street that was not protected and available to be protected as part of this land transfer. To do that, we had to subdivide the site, as I mentioned. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen in the colored image is the total site parcel at the reservoir. I'm sure many of you have seen it many times. And then we've subdivided off a portion of that parcel. A little bit harder to see in the right-hand picture, but it's outlined in red. And what's kind of special about that is that it's going to close off significant frontage along Parkland Ave to the entire back of the site, because directly to the right of that is a wetland resource area that would be very difficult to cross to access the upland portion of the site over by reservoir. So there's kind of an added benefit of conservation protection by way of closing the site from frontage access on the Parkland Avenue Road. So the next environmental threshold is around wetlands, waterways, and tidelands. As you can see here, we are in the FEMA 100-year floodplain zone A. Most of that is in the location of the Little League fields and the Magnolia Avenue Park location. There is a significant change in declination between where we are here and in the back where the park is. I'm sure everybody is very aware of that. And we have to be very conscious of how we manage water on the site as part of the design. This threshold is taken into consideration by the Department of Environmental Protection. So when I talk about MEPA and I say multi-agency review, what I'm saying here is the land use transfer is considered by the Massachusetts Division of Conservation Services. The environmental permitting matters specific to resource areas are undertaken by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. And then the third matter, which is around transportation, is considered by Mass DOT. Right. We have an additional challenge in that FEMA has drafted new maps all up and down the eastern seaboard. This was in response to Hurricane Sandy, where there is anticipated new volumes of flooding, and promulgated those draft maps to all coastal communities in the coastal zone management area from Maine to New Jersey. We all have these maps in our possession. We're aware of them as being the new potential elevations for flood zone. And at some point, MEPA will put them in place as the new revised floodplain maps. You may recall that the last time maps were released, it impacted everybody's flood insurance rather significantly. And that was immediately after Hurricane Sandy. So currently we have this information available to us. The study is done and we need to try to plan for resilient building in the future, knowing that we're going to have some new elevations promulgated at some point in the lifespan of this building. Finally, we are working through the transportation thresholds. 2,000 additional daily vehicle trips may sound like a lot, but in fact, a standard shopping center with a grocery store and a hotel sometimes have an average of 5,000 to 6,000 average daily trips. So for the purpose of this school building project, given the compact site, it is actually a fairly minimal impact overall, even though it certainly will be felt locally. Part of evaluating the transportation impacts will require that we do a transportation analysis, and a plan will need to be developed for moving all of these new vehicles around the site and around the neighboring area. And also we will need to do a standard greenhouse gas inventory so that we can evaluate the impact of new gases to be discharged into the local environment so that we can make an effort to mitigate that. The currently developed site will be cut and regraded to create an appropriate, consistent, stable slope to support the roadway, sidewalks, buildings, and stormwater system. It is important to be aware that as part of the floodplain design process, the DEP requires elevation for elevation compensatory flood storage for any stormwater on site so that it may be permitted under the DEP stormwater standards. And that is true for any building built anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There are a host of stormwater standards that anything larger than a single family home or a 4-unit multifamily home retain all of its stormwater impact on site. There is no discharge. That is reinforced by MS4 federal permitting, which is administered by the EPA. This project is going to have its site somewhat contained by the high level on the Canomo Avenue grade. And also there will be some grade change to be able to bring buses and vehicles across the site to the lower exit on the opposite side of Magnolia Avenue Park. So the project will be converting a portion of previously maintained lawn and recreational area into the development, including the retaining wall, roadways, sidewalks, and parking. And then of course the disposition of Article 97 protection from the Magnolia Avenue parkland parcels. Our next steps are to complete the Article 97 and MEPA process. Article 97 is currently, as we said, with the legislative delegation, and we are hopeful that we will be able to have it released through the state by the end of the year. That is happening in tandem with the MEPA filing process. MEPA filing is a two-step process. You originally file what's called an environmental notification form, where you communicate to the multi-agency analysts that you will be doing this work. And they do an initial evaluation of your project and offer initial feedback, and then you submit a follow-up filing called an environmental impact report. And that's where you're including the traffic study and the greenhouse gas impact analysis and what you're going to be doing to mitigate that, and proof of elevation for elevation compensatory flood storage, and your proof of conservation of the land transfer at, in this case, reservoir site to provide for that one-to-one net loss of public land. It will be multiple different interests happening all at once, but that is the purpose of the MEPA process, is to try to keep it all together under one roof. We will complete estimating and establish a total project budget and schedule, and complete and submit schematic design to the MSBA, and ideally gain MSBA approval and sign the project scope and budget agreement with the MSBA, gain City Council approval on the project funding, and begin detailed design to advance the project forward and hopefully open it in a couple of years to students. With that, we're open for questions and comments, still always taking them. I'm recording them, and for everybody's reference, at the end of the public engagement process, it is my responsibility to draft a report to submit to the school building committee, and also to submit to MEPA that accurately reflects the comments that we hear at this forum and at the previous forum, and also tabling and through the survey. So please feel free to tell us what you think. You will be noted. When you do come up to the microphone right up here, please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Pete. That's a great question. So the 170 million is our maximum target right now. So the goal is to get through the later phases of design. We'll continue to estimate at each major phase, and the idea is to keep it capped at the 170 million.
And the actual construction, who will oversee the end-to-end construction and then other plans and means what's actually been decided.
Thank you, Paul. Another great question. Left field, as the owner's project manager, will have an on-site representative, and so that person will be tasked. Yes. Okay, yeah. So left field, we are the project managers, the OPM, and we will have a staff person on site every day, and one of their responsibilities will be to ensure that all of the details in the design documents are what the contractor or construction manager actually builds. And that is done through meetings, on-site witnessing, so observing, taking photographs, daily field reports, and so it's a very rigorous process to address that exact concern. Make sure the city gets the building that was designed and paid for. Yes, and that'll be one of our main focuses, is to ensure that.
If someone is trying by the state, it's approved to be project.
By the state, no, but the local building inspector will have ultimate authority and oversight. The design team also assists with regular site visits, observation, and reporting. And as Gene was just mentioning, the Left Field and Raymond Design Associates team successfully completed Thurgood Marshall. And that was a successful project where it was completed as anticipated and paid for.
Okay.
Certainly.
And field director of baseball. So this year, we had quite a bit of rain. Yeah. Storms they built parking of the okay. So go and roll will be a flooding issue here in water. Was the accumulated new
Yeah, absolutely. I can respond to that. So the DEP has, as I mentioned, a series of stormwater standards that require any development project to retain all of their stormwater on site. And the estimates for those, that aerial flooding is for the 100-year storm. So everybody needs to develop highly oversized stormwater management systems in any development or redevelopment site so that they have the capacity to hold water on site for the period of time that will be required according to the soils found on site to percolate. So you have to have that groundwater recharge to be able to be permitted by the DEP. And this project will be coming before the local conservation commission as part of that permitting. So the DEP actually gets two cracks at it. They get to look at it as part of the MEPA review process and respond immediately as to whether or not they find that the elevation by elevation compensatory flood storage has been provided in the design. And then there is the administrative authority of the DEP by way of the Wetlands Protection Act via the local conservation commission to issue an order of conditions. And those conditions specifically require that all stormwater remain on site. So there are quite a few protections in place to keep water from discharging anywhere off site. And that is actually a major environmental policy in Massachusetts and New England that has been rolled out over the course of the last 10 to 20 years in an effort to try to keep water out of sewer systems because of combined sewer overflows. So there's a big overarching theme to try to keep water on sites everywhere. And anytime you open a site for redevelopment, then you must improve it to the performance standards as they exist now. There's no grandfathering. Well, they may not have been permitted, right? They may not have needed a permit under the Wetlands Protection Act because because they have the higher elevation, right? They're not in a floodplain. They're in documented upland area.
There's going to be a lot of
I would expect that the culvert will have to be cammed before, during, and after construction as a regular part of the construction oversight process. And any impact to it would need to be repaired. Yeah.
You see?
I do, absolutely, for sure.
All right, great.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments tonight? Looks like there are none. Would you have any online? Okay, well, seeing none, hearing none, the time is 6:50. Last call for questions or comments. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you to the superintendent and school team. Thank you to the mayor's office. Thank you to OPM and to our architects for coming out. And thank you all for being engaged. And to many of you who are school building committee members and school committee members for all of your time and effort towards education in Lynn. This is a great project. Please stay in touch and we will see you again soon. Have a great night.